welcome everybody. We are here for the Show Me Reptiles podcast this week. We've got a special guest with us. We got David Levinson. Welcome, Dave.
Hey, guys.
What's up, Dave?
Howdy.
And of course, we've got Micky and Scott with us, as always.
You said that like we're fucking boring or something.
Oh, no, not at all.
We are fucking boring. We just work all the time.
Yes, so?
You just took a vacation, dude. You're out of town all week doing nothing.
Yeah, I'm going to dump the other half of my workload onto you now. Because you went on vacation.
I mean, it was like a day and a half, but sure.
Yeah. So, Dave, when's the last time you went on vacation?
Oh, well, Daytona. I took that weekend off to go down there. That's an official vacation and probably the one I take every year where I don't have to vend a show.
Yeah, that's usually a vacation for me. I stayed at home and worked on one of the stores. So, since got down there, though, he had a good time.
Nothing wrong with that. I'm contemplating missing Tinley this year for the first time in 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah, no. There's so much work to be done. I just don't know if I have F-off weekends anymore.
Unfortunately, I'm going to miss Tinley this year. I'm going to be in Grovetown, Georgia, hanging out with all those guys. It was a tough decision because I do like going up to Tinley and seeing everybody and taking selfies with everybody and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's probably the longest running show for me that I haven't missed. I think Daytona's second. So we'll see. I'm talking this way now. When the week of rolls around, I'll probably be talking about going, but contemplating missing this year.
You're going to go. It'll be fine.
I'll probably end up going, but I'm really thinking I shouldn't.
I find I save a lot of money if I don't go.
Yeah, the money aspect, of course. But no, so what's going on with Colubrid Fest? How's that shaping up for you guys so far?
Oh, Colubrid Fest, it's actually looking really good. We've got some really cool speakers. I don't have the list in front of me, but we've got some super cool speakers on Saturday. We've got some awesome. Let me see if I can pull it up on the computer. We got some.
You guys have Clint Conway coming out to that show? Clint
Bartley?
Yes, I call him Conway some reason.
Yeah, Clint Bartley's coming out. Him and Zach actually helped me organize the show, and get the speakers together and everything like that. Yeah, it was kind of Clint and Zach's idea, and we all got together and made it happen. So really excited though. We've got Colubrid breeders coming from all over the country. Should be a really good time. I'm super excited. My credit card's a little nervous because I've got a couple open Colubrid racks. So
not a bad thing. I've always enjoyed investing in Colubrids. It's one of the few things I still buy nowadays.
Yeah, no, Colubrids are good. I was actually working with my ball pythons last night, man, and I'm like really considering cutting down on a good chunk of them, except for some of my passion projects. I just don't have the time, Dave. You've been telling me for years just to do the shows and stuff like that and not keep so many reptiles. And now I'm kind of feeling that burn.
Well, it's hard to be great at everything. What you're doing, you really got to be 100%. The animals, you got to be 100%. So, what's gonna suffer there, But I understand what you mean about the fluff. I think there's a lot of people now that are looking at their collections and like trying to refine, I guess you could say. If it's not something that you're building on for the future or something that relevant to you, why still have it?
Yeah, like I picked up like a 15-year-old yellow belly last night. I'm like, you've been with me for a long time. It might be time for you to go be somebody's pet now.
Yeah, yellow belly's always going to be a relevant gene, buddy. If you want to keep that around, I wouldn't fault you for it. There's some nostalgia in that one for you.
I know, but like there's plenty of combos that I have that already have it in it. So it's like,
No, it's true. It's true. What do you guys think about US Arc's post the other day? What's the name of that bill that they're trying to add cold-blooded to?
Yeah, the HB whatever. Yeah, we definitely do not need the Department of Agriculture telling us how to take care of our reptiles.
No, I won't disagree with that. I do think that inevitably we will be there. I think with all these other pet areas in the world or in the United States being regulated, I don't see why that wouldn't trickle into cold-blooded. I think that we're usually the last people on people's radar. But I talked to a couple people that know bird people that deal with that, because I think they just introduced birds to it in the last couple years or
Yeah, 2 years ago.
recently. One thing that came up is, imagine all the people they'll have to hire to actually police the hobby if they were even going to try to incorporate us in. That might be something they're not keeping in consideration. And again, I'm not going to say small regulations wouldn't help. But honestly, you give an inch, they take a foot. So I really don't know how to feel about it,
So
Well, between
really,
the robots and the AI, I think we're like 2 years away from just robot police force. So
Yeah. Well, I trust AI, right?
Yeah.
But no, like I said, it's a tough one. But is it going to be for people with a minimal of 200 animals? Is it going to be minimal produce 200 animals? Like, there's going to have to be some fine print in there. I don't, like I said, they don't have the manpower to police a thing like that.
Apollo, no, they don't. And honestly, so like I've had to deal with like the USDA before, and really they're not that bad.
No,
They're not terrible. I mean, I think if they introduce some like real standards of like how they wanted breeders to keep animals and stuff, I think a majority of us would be fine with it. The only thing that I think people would, bitch about is the $300 or $400 a year permit that they'd have to pay for.
Yeah,
But,
I think the problem with any government agency, it's the type of people that they hire and who they get in. If they're hiring quality people whose passion is really to make the keeping better, that's not a horrible thing. But like if you've run a restaurant before, you can have one person come in and do a health inspection that their mindset is gotcha, and all they want to do is see what they can catch you on. And you can have other people who come in and all they want to do is ensure that you're actually running a healthy place, give you suggestions for ways to make things better when you're already doing a good job. So, I mean, it's the same way on this. If you get somebody that's walking through the door looking for things to catch, it can be hell.
Well, I feel like anytime something new like this comes up in any area, they always need somebody to make an example of. So I do think that maybe early on there might be a couple people, but I would like to think long term. Here's the thing, I don't like working in fear, but we've already learned that we won't police ourselves in the hobby together. Inevitably, we will have to deal with laws because we can't do it ourselves.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with that because, like, every time you try to do something positive, not every time, but a lot of times when people try to do something positive or something different in this hobby, they get crucified. So, the self-policing, I think it works on the small scale, but not large scale.
Okay, I understand what you're saying by that. But no, like I said, I don't know if this is going to work this time around. I'm going to try to focus on it. I don't know. Did you happen to notice a date that we need to pay attention to on that one?
I'm going to pull it up really quick. That way I'm giving out good information. How about that?
No, of course. Oh,
So while Mickey's looking that up, one fun thing about Colubrid Fest, it does happen to be on the same day as NFL Colts game. So maybe if we're lucky, being it's in the same facility, maybe we've got a whole bunch of football fans who are going to get introduced to Colubrids that day.
interesting. So you guys are on the grounds of the stadium?
Yeah, it's actually there at the convention center, which is at the Lucas Oil Stadium.
Nice, nice.
The same. I think they're playing the Steelers that day. So
okay, well they might be. Colts are off to an 0-2 start. Quarterback's looking a little shaky. Everything about teams looking a little shaky. I'm sure you're gonna have a lot of angry people after the Steelers beat the shit out of them. I think it'll work out.
yeah, I mean, if my team loses, I may as well take home a snake, right? I mean, that makes good logical sense.
No, of course. So kickoff's at 1:00 for that game?
I think it is. I think it's a 1:00 game. So we're hoping though, between tailgating and people going to the game, that we pick up some random folks.
It's interesting. Because I love Colubrid so much, I had actually thought about just visiting that show for the sake of visiting it. But again, it's so tough to take day trips. I'd have to find an excuse to go to Indianapolis that day.
Go see Des over at Cold Blooded Novelties while you're up there. She's not going to be there. She's going to be out of town, but never mind.
Oh,
Scrap that one.
We tried.
Okay, so what this is it's called HR 9571, and it's an amendment to the Animal Welfare Act to include the cold-blooded species as animals and for other purposes. Yeah, it'll actually add reptiles, amphibians, fish, and cephalopods as animals under the Animal Welfare Act. And that's how a lot of these industries over the years have gotten by with that regulation, because they're reptiles, they're fish, they're not animals. So now they're changing the language. They're trying to change the language to make that inclusive. And I almost wonder if it's an opportunity for them to sell more permits. Honestly, I mean, at the end of the day, that's really what it kind of boils down to.
So what I'm hearing is the rise of tarantula keepers.
Yeah.
Well, so again, the manpower I go back to, I don't know what that would take. I would have to go on Morph Market and see how many active accounts there are on Morph Market at the moment, just to gauge how many breeders there are in the country that might need to be regulated.
There's
I
probably
just don't see how they pull it off.
There's probably 20 to 30,000 breeders in the country, honestly.
I thought the same thing. But again, this might be based on size of the collection. I know sometimes we try to find loopholes. I'd be curious what the loophole we find to get out of this one, but I think this is the first time I've heard of this coming up. So where it might not work out this time, it might be another conversation we have in a year.
Well, so this is just it's just in a committee right now. And they might look at that and be like, look, we don't want to go out here and fuck with all these snakes. Just leave the snake people alone. I mean, because honestly, like my guy that I had for my USDA permit, he didn't even want to look at reptiles. Super nice guy. Yeah. Cool dude. But he was mainly worried about the primates and the dogs, oddly enough, because at that point in time, I think we had 3 dogs, and he's like, well, Huh. I'm like, you guys are really stopping the puppy mill.
How many tables do you guys got at Colubrid Fest?
We are only allowing 100 tables there. So we've got our sponsor tables from like ZoomEd and Exoterra and stuff like that. Those guys are taking up like 4 apiece, and then the rest of it's just full of colubrids. I actually talked to somebody in Georgia. They're like, oh, there's not that many vendors or tables signed up for it. It's like, it's a super niche market thing. Like, how many colubrid breeders do you think will get to travel to Indianapolis for the first time?
No, that's really the truth. Luckily, there are a lot of colubrid breeders in the Northeast that I'm sure that, it's not going to be a big issue. You guys have Chad Fuchs coming out?
No, I haven't talked to Chad about it.
No Chad yet? Okay. Should. That might be close enough to home. He might be willing to come out. He usually has, I like all this stuff. He's got good variety.
Chad's animals are always so clean. And I think what's happening too with it is just a lot of people aren't wanting to travel this year, because that was kind of something that I heard whenever I was reaching out to breeders. They still want to travel. They just wanted to kind of see how it goes this year. And maybe check it out next year.
I get that. I will say even I'm a little more weary about taking chances. I've shortened, how far I'm willing to drive for shows at the moment. I'm talking myself out of a lot of shows, more personal reasons, but, I don't blame people for not wanting to travel too far. I do understand.
Well, yeah, but money's just tight around for everybody. It really is.
And, things turn around. But you said you won't be walking Tinley because you're not going to be there. You're going to be in Georgia.
Yeah.
You got any of you guys up there like Scott grabbing some business cards, maybe talking to some of the Colubrid guys while you're up there?
I'll be in Cape Girardeau. I think Amy might be going up to Tinley.
Yeah, Amy's going to Tinley, and I think somebody else is going up to Tinley from the team. So they're going to be walking around doing all the show me stuff for us up there, shaking hands and kissing babies. Or shaking babies and kissing hands, whatever.
All right. Sounds right. There's a lot of drinking going on up there. I could see that being a possibility.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, what do you want to talk about? You guys are making me interview you guys at this point. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I was here for it. You got some good questions.
Ask some questions, Scott.
I was hanging on to my questions for our team meeting after this.
Oh.
Yeah, we have a meeting after this.
Good.
Ooh,
always
I got one we can talk about. let's.
What you got?
Well, I don't know. What's up with this Robert Powers guy? I see MJ's doing a thing about the rip-off carpet breeder or whatever.
Honestly, I missed that. I didn't see any memes floating around, and without memes, I don't realize there's news stories going on.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I guess we shouldn't talk about that since he's doing that podcast tomorrow night.
Yeah, I'd be
Yeah.
curious what that ends up being. But no, honestly, I don't even think I know about that one, as
Yeah,
in the context of the situation.
Yeah, I don't know shit about it. I just seen it. I was like, oh, what's up with that? I
Yeah,
don't
no,
know.
I'm trying to think. What'd you guys think about the Scaleless California Kings?
Listen, I generally think that a lot of the scaleless animals are just kind of like abominations and genetic defects. So
Yep.
Did you always feel that way, or did ball pythons do this to you? Like, did all that Scaleless ball python propaganda ruin you for life?
no, it wasn't the propaganda. I think it really just they really made me question my sexuality because the first time I had a scaleless corn snake in my hand, I'm like, this thing feels a lot like a penis, and I shouldn't like this that much. And I think that's what got me.
That's it. That sounds. You know what? That sounds a little homophobic, buddy. Just
Little
because
bit.
that snake reminded you of a penis, you can't even look at it anymore. It's over for you. That's
Listen,
the draw right there, buddy.
I've got a whole rack of scaleless corn snakes. You know how hard it is whenever I take one of those things out to an educational show, and I'm like, I can't tell these guys that it feels like a penis.
Oh. You know. By the way, I really love where you've gone with this. You know, I'm really sorry that you can't tell a bunch of 10-year-olds that snake feels like a dick, and because of that, you have to leave it at home. But you know, you could just keep that out of the conversation. Why don't you let the little kids bring the penis up themselves?
Right? That feels like
Little boys probably will.
Well, actually, it's usually their moms or a teacher that brings it up.
Oh, okay. Well, see,
And then
now
once they
you piqued my interest again.
once they open the door, then it's like, okay.
Okay. Well, again, you know, I don't advise doing that in front of the kids. I don't mind you doing that in front of the teacher.
No, the ball python didn't run the scaleless thing for me. I just know that, like, in nature, that animal would not thrive. At least I don't think it would.
Well, I think a lot of this stuff won't thrive in nature, but, you know, that's not really what we're doing here anymore.
Yeah, I know. We got to take that nature part out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was my gut instinct originally too. Was you know, well, you're purposely breeding a genetic trait into something that would make the snake less likely to thrive. But you're right. I mean, at this point in time, that's never going to be reintroduced to, you know, to nature. That's not what it is anymore. It's a pet that's always going to be protected.
Yeah, more likely. Yeah, I don't know. I've got a weird love for the Scaleless, but I've always loved the Scaleless projects. Now, I will say that the ball pythons did turn me off a little bit. You know, as for the California Kings getting a new mutation to play with, I don't know. I'd be excited about that. I feel like it's a while since they've had anything new.
It would be cool to see the Kings make a big comeback. I remember how popular those things were before ball pythons really started to take charge.
Hondurans, everything was a bit more popular until ball pythons took over. All right, so I thought of maybe a negative with the California king snakes. Negative, positive. If one decides to chew on the other without having that armor on there, it could turn into a real issue.
Yeah, that would be a whole ass mess. It might be easier to pull them out though if it doesn't have scales.
Could be lacerations. Oh, you mean? Oh, I see what you mean. Get it out. Yeah, I feel like once it's in, you leave it in. I don't know. I don't know if I'd take it out.
I seen Junior did a video the other, I think it was last week, about his female hognose is eating his males.
Yep.
And he had to pull one out, and I was like, oh man, I don't miss that.
It all happened so fast, and I think I'm really glad for the juniors and the Mike Schultzes that know to get their phone out when things are happening like that, because again, I never think about that. I thought it was cool. I've talked a lot with Junior about females eating males over the years, and he's had a few tragedy stories. I talked to my buddy Ted Williams down in North Carolina back when he was trying to make toffee condas for the first time like a decade plus ago, and his conda head toffee male was ate by his toffee female initially. I think it took another 2 years before he had another chance of that mutation. even that species is really prone to eating their eggs also. So I know Junior's always really keeping a close eye on things when he knows a female is close to laying eggs. He's mentioned that he's walked in on females after they pretty much ate the whole clutch, and then they got so much in them they start regurgitating them.
That's terrible. I've heard of cottonmouths doing that when they have babies in captivity. They turn around, they eat the babies almost as fast as they come out.
Yeah, I heard that a couple of stories, I think at Jolliffe's place, where it might have been his leucistic cottonmouth female or something along those lines would just eat her litter every single time. So I think he just stopped breeding her at that point.
Yeah, she'd nom them right down and get it. As I got this pulled up on my computer, I'm just kind of wondering what this industry would look like if a lot of people had to get their USDA licenses, man. Like, that might actually change the hobby quite a bit.
Well, yeah, and I hate for people to have to live in fear, and I know surprise inspections freak people out and all that, but I don't necessarily think it's a negative either. If it's just something as simple as a permit to run a business every year, like any other animal breeder, I'll bitch about the paperwork like I bitch about all paperwork, but I just don't necessarily look at it as a negative.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be a negative. I mean, honestly, like, there's a
very
lot,
well help clean up a lot of the hobby.
I think the thing is, if there's even just the fear of it, and there's a set of guidelines that you have to keep, it pushes some people to automatically have to start keeping themselves honest. Whereas right now, it's basically wild west. Do what you want.
Yeah, and again, caging has gotten significantly better. A lot of breeders during COVID, when they were making good money, a lot of them did improve their setups. I saw better rooms being developed. I saw better caging and racks being purchased. So, if this would have been 6 or 7 years ago, it would have been different. But now, honestly, things are looking so professional. It's not a big fear, but I do think there'll be a few people that'll have their concerns.
Speaking of great facilities, I was at a mutual friend of ours the other day, David.
Okay.
I'm not going to mention his name, but they just built this amazing facility, him and his father, and he walked me through it. It was fucking beautiful, man. Like, everything was just so perfect and pristine. I was so proud for them. It was just like, man, this is it right here. Like, they definitely put some work in on it.
No, I went to go see William Philippek's new building that he works out of, and between everything being white, it looks like every little detail he put a lot of thought into. Even the hose on his retractable hose, he switched out with kitchen grade industrial hose line, so he didn't have to worry about that smell in there anymore. Like, the fine print, he didn't skip anything.
No, it's beautiful. Yeah. I wasn't going to mention his name, but
oh, is that what you were talking about?
That's who I was talking about.
Ah, you bitch. You should be proud of that place, man. No, it was beautiful. I loved everything about it when I was there.
No, it was awesome. Yeah, they didn't skip out on anything, like the panels on the wall and everything. Like, I was talking to John and he was just explaining all the little details and everything. I was just like, wow, this is nice. Like,
yeah. No, like I said, the initial tour, I loved it. I've always just kind of ended up in places to have a collection. I never have been able to build something to put a collection in. So watching him and what his father put together, and even along the way, little questions they were asking him, I'm jealous. It was perfect. I love their place. I love the size of it. Reasonable. He still has room to expand in there. Love everything about it.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I can't wait till it's done. I'm gonna be like, hey man, can we come down and do a video of it and some stuff like that? And yeah, and those guys are just great people anyways. I love those guys. They're pretty awesome. So
no, yeah, the whole family I really like. I go fishing with the father. It's been about a year. I almost killed him one time. He told me he walked for 4 or 5 miles every morning with the dog. And I was like, well, it's a 7-mile hike to do this fishing trip. You sure you can do it? And he's like, of course I can. Well, we did it. but goddamn, he could have died that day. It was close. We had to like take a route through the woods to cut a little time off. I felt horrible afterwards, but we stick to canoe fishing now.
Yeah, that's a little bit easier, you know. You know, when you said that you took him on a hike, that kind of reminded me of that time we hiked up the side of that fucking mountain in El Paso. That was rough. That was
rough. It was hot out. There was ants. There was no reptiles. It was nice and awful all at the same time.
Yeah, 10 out of 10 would not suggest that again. I think we found that car, and we were walking on those little thorns that we drug back into the hotel for the rest of the weekend. It was horrible.
Yeah. Still a good weekend, still chill. I enjoy being down there, but yeah, the herping sucked. It's too hot. Too hot to herp in Texas.
Yeah.
You still down in El Paso?
No, we're in Odessa now.
Yes.
Yeah,
We
Odessa.
got Denton and Waco too.
Yeah, we're in Denton and Waco down there in Texas. We're gonna go back to El Paso. The vendors down there in West Texas are asking us to bring it back, so we might bring it back next year.
All right, tight. Well, I know the Odessa show pulled. What's that?
I said we're being super picky about, you know, the markets and locations and stuff now, so not sprinkling so much stuff all over everything.
Didn't I get that. Odessa moving into a bigger building? Is that what I saw?
Yeah, Odessa's moving into a bigger building now. So,
Nice. I think I did the Oklahoma City show, and I remember not this past one, the one before that. I think Odessa was the same weekend, and I remember a few of the Oklahoma City vendors actually went down to Odessa to give that a shot instead of staying local. I did unbelievable in Oklahoma City that weekend because I didn't have competition. There's much competition.
Yeah, I think that's something that a lot of people are starting to realize. Like, the competition at the shows isn't always the best for them. Like going to a show where there's like 300 or 400 tables.
People underestimate what you can accomplish at a small show.
Yeah.
Especially if you have something that's unique and there's not 17 other vendors with the same stuff.
So I'd say that variety's key, no matter what it is. If it's a 500 table show and that every table's got ball pythons, or it's a 30 table show and everyone's got ball pythons.
Yep.
If you don't want ball python, you're pissed.
Oh, 100%. If you're a ball python guy, you got to be good at sales, or you have to be the best prices in the building. So one or the other, you can sell them. But you're right; it is definitely a lot more cutthroat. There's a lot of fine print that people don't realize going and selling ball pythons. People don't want the big ones like they used to. You're not getting a bunch of extra money on bigger adults like you used to. If you're talking about animals that are going into the pet trade, they really got to be around like 250 grams or smaller for a ball python. Exceed 250 grams, people don't want to buy them as a pet anymore. They think they're too established. So there's little things you got to keep in consideration when selling ball pythons, especially if you're going to a show. Good example. This past weekend, Chad had probably about 70 to 80 deli cups on his table. Everything from $20 pastels, $150 to $200 GHI Mojaves. He had the best show he's had all year. I think he sold over 50 animals. But the thing is when it came to other ball pythons at that show, they were either bigger or they were investment animals. Not that many ball python breeders this past weekend brought out low-end stock. And by low-end, I mean that $20 to $250 mark. And because of that, I think he took most of those sales that came in on ball pythons when it came to the pet industry. So like I said, there's certain fine print you kind of pick up on at these shows. But, I mean, you know me, man. I do more of your shows than anybody else in the industry right now. I have some shows I absolutely kill it at. I got some shows that I've done well at, but are a little inconsistent. But again, that's every show in the country. But, like I said, when I know everybody's going to one of your shows, I typically go to the one that nobody goes to. And I typically do very well there.
Well, and I think, you've really learned how to play to the room too, like, the audience of a reptile show. It doesn't matter, what it is. Like, it's generally always the same audience. Every once in a while you might sell a higher end animal, but for the most part, it's people coming in looking for a new pet.
Very true. I explain that to people that, a lot of shows I might only sell one animal over $500 and I might sell 30 animals under $500. And out of those 30, there might only be one or two that's between $250 to $500. So, I expect when I go to shows like that my demographics going to be families. And, one of the hopes that I always have, and I know all vendors feel the same way, is if enough families come in and buy enough pets, there's a good chance that I or another vendor will walk over to another table because that money is burning a hole through my pocket and I want to buy a new snake. Whether it's a reinvestment, like I said, I'm always looking for colubrids. If it's a special deal, a lot of times I'm going to jump on it. But, I've been doing this for so long now that, you go through all different stages of buying, I guess, in the hobby. Um, I take a breath before I buy now. It used to be, I need it and I want 15 of them. And I'm still that way. I want a lot of everything I'm going to put time into. But I will say, and it's not just because the money in it, I'm just a lot more cautious of what I'm buying now because I'm getting older. And, I got to pick the right projects I want to finish with.
It's funny you mentioned that. So I've been wanting to work with the mountain horn lizards for a while.
Yeah.
And somebody had like 8 of them on their table for like $25 a piece this weekend. And I'm like, oh, I will take all of those. And as I was walking back to my booth, I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Like, why do I do this? Now I have to set up a couple 4x2x4s. Like, fuck. Like, these $200 worth of lizards is going to cost me thousands of dollars in cage setups.
No, and that's a passion piece. That's I'm working on a bioactive idea that I'll when I'm finished with the drawing, I'll show you. In my head, it's one of the most beautiful things you'll ever see in your entire life for bioactives. I think it's very thinking outside the box. And it's so I can keep horny toads. Just a few of them, just because I like staring at them. But it's a very unique idea. It's in there deep. I just got to put it on paper, buy the materials. I've got a lot of, as you know, acrylic experience from when I built display cases. So It's probably going to be completely built from scratch with acrylics, every little detail. But cosmetically, when it's done, like I said, if it looks half as good as it looks in my head, it's going to be fucking beautiful. So I'm pretty excited about it.
Sounds awesome.
I love those ideas because, like, first you have to find the time and then you have to find the money to do them. I've been wanting to build some really cool terrariums for the newts, and it's just like, when do I have the time to sit down and bring this dream into reality? It's like,
Yeah. I think I have about 10 to 15 empty exoteric cages, the front flipping door ones, and they're a little bit taller, but like I said, they're just empty. And I think I'm up to 2, but every once in a while I go downstairs and I bring another one up and I wipe it down. I found like 30 cans of spray foam just in my garage I must have bought a long time ago and just never did anything with. So I think every week, maybe for the next 15 weeks, I'm going to bring a new one up and at least start the base and just work on them all at the same time. And then I don't know, man. Like I said, eyelash vipers, Amazon tree boas. There's probably some kind of geckos I'm going to mess with. I just haven't really picked them yet. But yeah, no, it's relaxing to look at that at the end of the day when you've been working with breeder animals all day, I guess you could say, in a breeding facility. It's just a little different.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something that I'm kind of thinking about while we're talking. It's like, okay, what, with this bill that they're trying to amend, what's that going to look like for the breeder? Are they going to be like, hey guys, you can't keep these things in racks anymore. They need to be in these, naturalistic enclosures. Like,
well, this conversation I've had a million times. I bring up, I made a post a long time ago that nobody cared about, but, I'm only so popular. But I put a female carpet python, I think it was a diamond. She was wrapped around eggs. And I think on every egg, I put that red stamp that said organic. And my question was, if you ran a full bioactive facility and you were producing animals in bioactives, they were maternally incubating their own eggs and everything, are you willing to pay more money knowing that animal's organic the same way that an organic egg is, in a sense? And I always wonder that because that's the whole thing too, is it costs more money to produce an animal under those settings, but at the same time, I don't think it's that much more money. Like I was even thinking with these Amazon tree boas, if I've got a 1.2 living in a cage year round, food consumption's the same. If it's semi-bioactive, my cleanup's going to be easier. We went from 3 cages to 1 cage. They might be more efficient in a bioactive than they would in any other setup.
Yeah. You know what? I think I'm gonna do a 4x2x2 bioactive build for a ball python next week. I've got one. I'm gonna check it out and see what the cost difference is.
Yeah. The poop size, though, man, that's the one thing we always say, could we? That poop size is too big. Like, that's a lot of shit for a bioactive.
Yeah, I'll just put a bunch of isopods and springtails in there, right? They'll eat it. Or I'll put
Yeah.
red-footed tortoise in there with them. Redfoots eat
Okay.
all shit.
See? I was trying to figure out another animal that would eat shit. I didn't even think about that. So I didn't think there was one, but you're right. I would go with the redfoot.
Yeah, redfoots will straight eat dog shit. They're great for cleaning up the yard. Like if you have a fenced-in backyard in the summertime, you don't have to worry about scooping up poop. The redfoot tortoise will wander around there and eat all the shit. It's great.
Yeah. Now that we've talked about this for as long as we have, it's okay for them to eat the shit, right? They're okay?
I mean, all mine are still alive, so I mean, I guess it's okay.
Man, that's the bar, buddy. That's the bar.
What is that? The numbers are making sense. I mean,
yeah.
Just make sure you feed your dog grain-free dog food, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, funny thing, Dave, you mentioned that might be the most efficient way of setting them up like that, bioactive. But I also wonder if, in terms of breeding, yields, how many eggs, how often they lay, if that might actually improve as well, over time. I wonder if, study wise, a rack versus a beautiful bioactive naturalistic setting, if the snake is more likely to actually produce more eggs for you.
We were talking like Boiga. When it comes to the breeding season, you really got to heavily miss them, and it seems like that triggers them to have a breeding response. Now, I know that some people get away with breeding them in rack systems. I've seen it, but just like what you're saying, Brady, I've thought whether or not those need to go bioactive next. Proper misting system, don't depend on me to always do it kind of thing. We have not been successful with them yet, but we've only had a pair of mangroves together, but they've been living together for like 3 years, but they haven't bred yet. We've checked the sexes. Every once in a while, it looks like they knock things around. I think if we had, like you said, a better setup, a little more bioactive, a little more misting, we might actually get some babies out of them. And also, I always talk about with people that these animals aren't cycling on what they do in nature anymore. They're on their own timeline in captivity. And with that said, like, if I've got you together year round, that male's going to pick up on that sense of the female when it's time. And it's not going to be up to me to introduce them the right week. So I do think, even I was thinking my children's pythons, if I did like a 4-foot cage and put like a 2.4 in there or 2.5 in there, I think the only thing that might be difficult is with feeding to make sure they all get equal meals. So maybe I just don't have it too crazy, but yeah, no, man. Even, Brady, talking to the Florida guys with skink breeding, the success that Heather's had down there with them all in group breeding. And I spoke with Manny with Tiki Geckos, and he even said stubborn animals are animals he's had for 3 or 4 years that he's unsuccessfully bred. Once he put them outside and they cycled on their own in a group, he got babies out of them. So I do think there's a lot of species that we could benefit from.
Yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense, especially if you're, like you said, in Florida, being in the right environment.
I just like the naturalistic enclosure though. Like a lot of the lizards and geckos that I'm keeping are all in naturalistic enclosures. They're, I'm really trying to mimic their natural environment. Like I've got a group of deadleaf lizards down here, and I'm trying to just mimic exactly where they're from. Temperature and rain, rainfall and everything like that. Like those things get misted down so much, and they go through a really rainy season, and that's when they breed. Like you almost have to, it seems like you have to flood them out. It's just like when I was trying to breed the wrinkles, you got to get those things so freaking cold to even get them to turn on to breed.
So I guess the redfoot with the ball python's the exception to that rule then.
Well, I mean, it's a cleanup crew. It's a redfoot and a ball python. It's there to eat the shit.
Yeah.
And you can probably cycle it through. probably cycle it through with a bunch of different animals.
Yeah. You know, the Borneo earless monitors, too, are another one when we talk bioactive setups. Now, I'm sure those guys are already breeding them that way, but that's another species I'd see a bioactive being very efficient.
Yeah. I think with the humidity requirements those things have, you almost have to.
Yeah, I don't think you have a choice.
You talk about insane. I know I've shown this to Mickey before, but Dave, have you ever seen the YouTube channel for Ants Canada?
Is this the ant guy that everyone talks about at the Animal Con?
So
Yeah.
yeah, probably. So the dude's he built like a 15-foot wide, 8-foot tall enclosure, called it Pandora, and it's got multiple ant species, geckos. He's introduced spiders, all this
Wow.
different stuff in there. It's basically his own little mini rainforest, and then he just reports on it weekly of like, what's doing what ant colony has invaded what other ant colony, and this thing is massive. And then he goes upstairs now and he builds a new enclosure upstairs, and it's the canopy to the rainforest, and he's built a tunnel that connects the two. So now it's two gigantic, like 15-foot enclosures that are connected across 2 floors, and it's basically forest floor and then the forest canopy, and now they're blending together.
So first off, love everything about that. Haven't seen it, but I do think I've seen pictures on Facebook of a guy standing in front of what I thought was the biggest bioactive I've ever seen. I got a feeling I've probably seen pictures of that on Facebook, but I haven't experienced it. I've heard great things about the guy. A lot of people said that he was probably one of the most entertaining guys at Animal Con the first year. The way he worked with the crowd, his pitch on ants to people, I heard it was amazing.
Yeah, he's very entertaining. It's like obviously over dramatic. It's almost like a movie. Like, tune in next week to see what the crazy ants do. It is a little bit over the top, but I mean, he's got millions of followers, so it's obviously working and entertaining.
Yeah. No, I mean, if it's a true part of his personality to be over the top, do it. But I always say, man, it's tough to fake that forever.
Yeah. No,
I think it is.
I think
It's a passion for that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been following that guy for like 10 years, being in pest control. There's just a YouTube channel that popped up my algorithm for bugs. So following the guy for a long time. I think he's pretty genuine. He's built these crazy enclosures and really invested a lot of time and energy into it, even from the start. So
yeah. No, like I said, I heard great things about him in Animal Con. I just, the one thing I just don't nerd out on enough is animal content. I get my animal content from these podcasts.
Yeah, real life animal content every day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. If I recorded my days, it would probably be pretty entertaining. But I never think to grab my phone whenever cool stuff happens. So whatever.
No, it's my problem too. That's why you just need people around you that do a thing like that on the regular. That it's instinctual for them.
Right. Yeah, but they're usually too busy playing in their phones whenever things happen. They don't notice it.
Fair. Well, so we were driving home from town the other day, and Bree looks out the window and just starts like muttering and like saying something but not making any sense. She was pretty much staring at a bear and couldn't get it out for me to look out the window to see it with her. And we turned around and it was gone. We looked around for a little while, didn't see it. We start driving away. I look in my rear view mirror. It crossed the road one more time, and I saw it like just getting off the road and just running in the woods. She said when she saw it, its little arm was in the air. It must have been just walking across this little side road. But fuck, man, I would have liked to have seen a bear.
Yeah, you guys got black bears down there too, don't you?
Well, I guarantee we have one. My neighbor said it took him 30 years before he saw one himself.
That's because they're smart bears. They don't want anything to do with us.
No, but it was cool. Like I said, I got the ass end of it, but I just wish she would have yelled bear and I would have looked over. I just thought that shit was a nonsensical moment. And I was probably playing on my phone.
You're like, are you having a seizure over there? You having a seizure?
Well, it's probably exactly what I said, knowing me, but got to miss a bear recently. I was pretty excited about that.
Have you had any good herping trips this year?
Yeah, I feel like not as many as I would have liked, but I knocked another species off my list in Missouri, seeing a coach whip. I think that was over by Lake Titicomo by the dam. Saw a few hognose this year. Me and Mike saw that timber in Oklahoma, so that was my first Oklahoma timber. Saw a few Massasaugas in Oklahoma. Horny toads for the first time ever in Oklahoma. I think the roads I've been cruising for years, I heard they were out there, but I've never seen them. And then we started like 2 hours early that one day, and I just think that it was never hot enough when we were cruising, because as soon as that sun was out, it was like 95 to 100 degrees. We saw like 5 of them. So that was pretty exciting. It's not been bad, but it's never enough herping. Even this past weekend on the way down to Atlanta, I was thinking about stopping in Mingo, checking a den spot out, maybe looking for mud snakes that I never find. I was kind of hoping it was going to rain a little bit, but my schedule got all fucked up. My rental car ended up getting given away, so it messed up my Friday. I didn't leave early enough. I never got to see anything. I feel like I have either one more good herping trip in me this year, or it's just time to start fishing for trout.
Yeah, you'll probably start trout fishing. The mud snakes are super cool. I found those up around Kansas City one time when I was up
Really?
there some years ago. I found mud snakes up there. This year has been a good year for getting out and doing much, but
no. Even, I do like a 2-day or sometimes 3-day herping trip with a good friend of mine out of Ohio. We'll just hit like 5 or 6 spots across the state. I think one year we saw 19 species over 3 days. We've had multiple days where we'll see 9 species a day. But he came in the spring, I think it was after that Nashville Pet Expo, and we got rained out. I think tornadoes came through, weather just turned to shit, so we ended up cutting it short. But again, it was a good day. We knocked 9 species out. I got that coach whip. But no, I don't know, man. I think just like every other year, I'm going to keep on saying I'll do more, but who's got the time?
Right. Yeah, the time is the thing. You know what I really want to do, Dave? You should come with. I want to go to like Thailand or something like that and really go do some fucking jungle herping.
I like Blake Wilson a lot, Blakey 2-inch, and I'm following him on all these adventures he's having in South America, the chaos, the wonderfulness.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I'll ever take one of those trips. I feel like the one time that I go with him is the weekend he'll die. And I just don't want to jinx him.
Oh man, the fucking stories, he cracks me up.
Yeah, no, I was supposed to have him on a podcast last week live from Peru, but he's trying to find a spot that his Wi-Fi is good enough. And he also found this guy in Peru that's been living in the woods for 30 or 40 years from Wisconsin. And he sleeps on a tabletop and he breeds boas in his backyard under canopies. We talked about maybe getting him into town and talking because he's a talker. I don't know what happened. I think there might have been a falling out in that relationship. I brought it up recently. Didn't seem so positive on it anymore.
Yeah, he's like he died in the jungle.
Yeah, but I talked to him. I thought it would be unique if I can get Blake when he's in other countries. If you can find unique people like that, maybe bring them on for a unique conversation. So hopefully that'll be part of what I do in the future on a podcast is maybe have Blake on every once in a while. But I gotta get my shit in order first. But I do want to start doing more work like that, and I know Blake is somebody I will be working with.
Yeah, he's somebody that needs a person following him around with a camera all day.
Yeah, if MTV maybe. It's we talked about it. Actually, Mike was really intrigued by the adventures, and he talked about maybe a Patreon page would be good for him. Just that behind the scenes of Blake, watching him jerk off transvestites on the road for $5, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
But that's Patreon content, man. I don't think I'm gonna mess around. I don't think that's YouTube.
He says they call me the Gringo.
Yeah. Dude, so first off, that tattoo is amazing. I love his Gringo tattoo. Second off, his Gringo shirt for his business is fucking beautiful. Mm-hmm. He's a very solid brand. I've always enjoyed Blake's brand.
Yeah, he's working it for sure.
Yeah, I still have the botfly that he pulled out of his leg in my freezer. It looks like the alcohol level's gone down a little bit, so I got to top it off. But I'll probably start wearing that thing around my neck in public.
his pet botfly. That was so fun to watch.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite moments, I think, in all the podcasts I ever did, is watching him in that filthy room, drop tweezers on the ground, pick him up, spit on him, and start pulling a bug out of his leg.
Jeez.
Like, it was rough, and I think the one broke in half, and he had to switch to the other one, and I'm pretty sure the one that broke in half did get infected. But no, that was fun. I built it up to be like this big thing, like a Tyson fight, and in the end, I barely did anything. But it was fun. I enjoyed it.
Well, Dave, I appreciate you being on here. I know we're all busy. I think we're gonna have to cut this off and head on our ways, eh?
Okay, that's fine. Well, hit me up
Big
if you
meeting.
need a guest speaker at Colubrid Fest. I can hitch a ride with somebody.
Hitch ride, Mickey.
I'd love you to come. You should come and have a good time with Clint and I.
Clint is a good selling point, even though I don't know his last name, but Brady will edit that out.
Yeah, Clint Bartley.
Yeah, I don't know who's Clint Conway.
Maybe
That might be a ball python.
We got to get
breeder.
him on we got to get him on next week for the podcast.
Yeah,
Find Clint
you know what?
Conway.
Yeah, you should get Clint on. But no, I'm thinking, there's a ball python breeder that did Trojan stuff, I think on the West Coast. That's Clint. I can't remember what I said before now.
Clint Conway.
Barkley? Clint
Might have been
Conway.
Conway, I don't know.
You guys can edit all this out.
It's fun. Hey, are you going to
It's
Springfield?
the same part of the podcast.
I heard Tinkle and something about a podcast.
Are you going to Springfield this weekend?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
I'm going to hit you guys up. I booked 4 tables on the website the other day. I might jump on there to add 2. I think I'm going to bring a lot more than I thought I was going to bring with, and I probably should have did 6 in the first place. So I'll get on the old computer Friday afternoon and fuck you guys by making changes last minute.
That's okay.
Yeah, I think we've only got like 6 tables left, so.
6 tables? Okay, well, pretend like we just
left.
had this conversation.
Okay.
Yeah. But no, I'll jump on there when I get out of here. Look for me. When I leave here, I'll put 2 more on there if it's no trouble.
Okay,
Oh, yeah,
no worries,
problem.
buddy. Like I said.
All right. Appreciate you. Well, I'll be seeing not Mickey this weekend, but I'll see Scott.
Scotty.
Yep.
All right, cool. Well, I'll see you guys soon.
All right.
All right,
Sounds
Dave.
good, buddy.
Thanks, David.
See you later.
Do it again. Later, guys.
See you, buddy.